mean, you and I have credit cards. And if the credit card is used here and in Belize the same day, they call you and say, gosh, were you really there? Okay? You have a private first class who downloads 250,000 documents, and the system doesn't say, oh, you may be overextended. I mean, this is a system so stupid that it ought to be a scandal of the first order.
Former Speaker Newt Gingrich telling Fox News Sunday that the WikiLeaks dump was not only preventable, but evidence of an incompetent and dangerous lack of security in our intel system. While the administration claims that the leaks are embarrassing but harmless, the reality is probably quite different. For more, we turn to Fox News strategic analyst and author of Endless War, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. I thought it was pretty interesting, Colonel, that analogy that Newt Gingrich made to credit cards. You know, if a credit card company can tell if an individual has been changing their habits somewhere in Iowa out of all the millions of people, why can't the government tell if some private has been downloading 250,000 documents?
Well, the analogy, unfortunately, David, doesn't really hold up. The problem here, one of the problems, is that after 9/11, we decided to do something that made sense in theory. That was to break down the firewalls between government agencies so they could check each other's databases. So we wouldn't have another 9/11 because we had all the pieces, but nobody put them together. Unfortunately, bureaucracies are not good at nuance. And so what it became is just a flood, a deluge of information.
Okay, I get your point. I accept the analogy doesn't exactly track, but does that mean that access to that information, even though if too many walls were broken down and sharing it between departments, access to that information should not extend all the way to a private, should it?
Well, you know, I've heard that argument too, but the government needs worker bees. The military needs worker bees. You can't have officers doing everything like the Soviets tried to do. But there is a real failure here in PFC Bradley Manning's chain of command. His NCOs and officers clearly weren't checking on this guy.
Right.
And David, this is like Abu Ghraib, which happened because the chain of command wasn't checking on the sociopath.
Yep.
Once again, the chain of command wasn't checking on the known sociopath.
Well, okay, let me stop you right there then, because you're right that different circumstances change the way you do things and change the way you operate. Do you think that we are now making those changes? I mean, is there a radical shift in the way information is being shared to prevent the private Manning thing from happening again?
David, having worked inside government bureaucracy and inside military intelligence, etc., we'll now probably swing to the other side. It's bureaucracies again. Bureaucracies are elephants. They're not acrobats. So it's tough. But there's another fundamental problem that people don't understand. Our government's been trying to spin this and saying, oh, it's only confidential information or some secret stuff. They're the lowest levels. But when we classify things, they're not classified generally by content. They're classified by sources and methods. So that a telephone intercept from NSA will be very highly classified, way above these levels, where a diplomat's very sensitive conversation may only be confidential. So this is a catastrophe, and all the while the government, you know, it's like the Animal House. All will be well, all will be well. Right. All isn't well. Yeah. This WikiLeaks, which is an ongoing affair, is catastrophic.
Now, having said all that, you make some great points about the way bureaucracies work, and of course the military is one bureaucracy. What happened here is serious espionage. This is not just a minor case here. This is a case that has to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, including the founder of WikiLeaks, no?
Oh, of course. And what's our government doing? Attorney General Eric Holder appears to be waiting to bust Julian Assange for shoplifting at Macy's over the holidays. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. We've seen cyber skirmishing between nations over the last decade, Russians attacking the Baltic nations or Georgia, the Chinese hacking into us. But those were skirmishes. This WikiLeaks dump is the first catastrophic act of cyber war, and our president's playing basketball. Hey, Obama needs to play a lot less basketball with his pals and a lot more hardball with our enemies. And Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are enemies of our security. And as I said, you know, I have to repeat something from last week, David. We have people in Guantanamo that haven't done a fraction of the damage to our security and our allies that Julian Assange, this sociopath, if not psychopath, has done.
Colonel Ralph Peters. Colonel, good to see you.